Hi friends, Dean here with Escape to Gaming. Today I want to do a simple look at open world games. And we've seen many open world games, especially the last 4 years or so, have really kind of come into their own as far as giant open sandboxes where you can play the game any way you want, go for 100% completion, or just do whatever you like, the main missions, do the side missions, the whole deal. And they're fascinating games. I remember, some of the early open world games, and wasn't sure initially how I felt about them. Some of the older ones for me were the original driver games. Even before I never played GTA 1 and 2 until after I had played GTA 3. But initially I had played the driver games and liked them. They're very simplistic now looking back at them. But I'm going to go through and I want to pick out 12 of my favorite games that are open world games going back to the PS2 and original Xbox days up until the present Xbox One and PlayStation 4 days. And there are no, any particular order. I'll start with the older ones first. If I missed any of yours, you can leave them in the comments. It's not that I don't think that they have merit, but these are the ones that had the biggest impact on me. If I had to pick just 12, these would be my absolute favorite games, and I'll tell you why. Starting off, even though I loved GTA 3, and it had so much impact on me, and I think many would agree that GTA Vice City was just one of those magical games where it just worked on what worked so well with GTA 3, and they just ramped it up. Now you can jump from the car instead of the car coming to a complete stop. You could exit the car. You could shoot your weapon from the car windows. It really was just like a quantum leap as far as what you got between the music and the great Miami Vice settings of the 80s. It's an absolute masterpiece. It's a shame that you can't review this game and really exploit the music. I just saw that Classic Game Room recently had redone. Mark had redid his original PlayStation 2 review of this because he got nailed for the copyright, the music, which is really a shame because the music is such a big part of what makes this game so fantastic. I even have all of the Vice City radio stations here on disc, which I still listen to today. I love them. It's a fantastic game. I don't have to explain it to too many people. Everyone, for the most part, I don't think I've ever met anyone that hasn't played, that's a gamer, that hasn't enjoyed Grand Theft Auto Vice City. But just so many. This is one of the first games, along with GTA 3, that I actually did 100% completion. Finding all the hidden packages, doing every single side mission with the taxi cabs and the ice cream trucks and the fire trucks and everything. I love this game. I love the side content. And it gave you so much to do. I played a sick amount of this. And then once I got the attack helicopter unlocked, I kept trying to see how I could rank up, and I got farther and farther and farther. I think to over 100 consecutive missions that I did in the military. I think they were called vigilante missions in the military helicopter. And to this day, still have my memory card with all my saves in it where I go back and play this. I've recently got it for the original Xbox, which I've got over here as well. But this game, to me, this will be the only older game. It's not to say that San Andreas wasn't just as wonderful, but this one, to me, just inches them all out. It just really hit on all cylinders. Everything I loved about it. A fantastic game. Next is an unusual game, and I initially played it on the PlayStation 2, and I recently got it on the original Xbox, and that's Roadkill. In fact, I thought it was an exclusive to the GameCube and PlayStation 2, but I found that there actually is an Xbox version, as hard as it is to find. But this is highly recommended. If you love Twisted Metal, it's very similar to GTA meets Twisted Metal. Now, Twisted Metal was a wonderful car combat game, but what made Roadkill so cool is that it really is, it's an open world game, very much like GTA 3, where you have 3 major portions of the city that you unlock. They connect through loading screens. You go through a tunnel and it goes into like a loading screen to unlock the next giant open world area. But you get 3 very similar, to what you had in Vice City or GTA 3. 3 large areas on the map, kind of a post-apocalyptic world. A fantastic game. Even better car models, I think, in some respects, and what's in Twisted Metal. Terminal Reality, which is now gone. They did Survival Instinct and the wonderful Ghostbusters game. But this is a real kind of a under-the-radar gem. You see very little gameplay on this. I think I got flagged. I did a gameplay video, and it had some licensed music in it. It might still be up. I just recorded my TV down here, my Sony Trinitron, playing this on the PlayStation 2, but I still love this today. The radio stations are fantastic. Really comedic, wonderful talk radio stations, very similar to what's in the GTA games. Perhaps even better in some respects, but just a wonderful post-apocalyptic game, complete mayhem. Really kind of a cool game, interesting cutscenes, very strange, but a real gem, and I would highly recommend this if you're a game collector for the GameCube, the PlayStation 2, or the original Xbox. You'll love this Roadkill game. Now next is a game, an open world game, and I mentioned the original Driver games, Driver 1 and 2, which I have for the PlayStation 1 and love them very much, and including Driver 3. Some people don't like it, but I actually do like Driver 3 and the 3 different cities that they have portrayed in there. But Driver Parallel Lines, to me, takes the ultimate German chocolate cake for Driver games. It's one of my favorite open world games to this day. What it does is it takes New York City and it shows the whole main island of Manhattan, plus you've got the other boroughs of Queens and Brooklyn and the other kind of islands or areas connected, via the bridges that you can go explore. There's collectible and like hidden stunt jumps, wonderful missions like GTA. You can get out of the car, use weapons, commandeer vehicles, trucks. I think there's military vehicles. You got like SWAT teams. It's kind of similar to GTA with the cops and the stars and all that. But the cops in this were relentless. Great, wonderful chases in this. Wonderful replays. That's one of the things I like about this, which you didn't really have in GTA, is it has great replays. This has a wonderful soundtrack. And frankly, some of the best cutscenes that you will ever see for this generation. This is kind of near the end of the Xbox, original Xbox and PlayStation 2 game cycle, but a fantastic game. What's cool about it is the first half of the game starts off in the 1970s. You're a getaway driver, and it has a very fascinating story. Something happens, and it shows years later into the present day of the 90s or the 2000s or whatever. And or I think it's, the present day, which would have been probably the mid-2000s. And it shows the same city, but it looks different. The lighting's different. Now you get more modern billboards, modern cars with a few older ones in there as well. And the story is amazing. This is a great game and a real hidden gem. If you have an old original Xbox or PlayStation 2, don't hesitate to get this. It also has one of my favorite box arts for any older video game. Just gorgeous, kind of an iridescent box art, with this, looks like a Dodge Challenger in the cover, but I love this game to death, and it offers so much. You can probably pick it up dirt cheap too, but a great game, Driver Parallel Lines. I love this one. The next big open world game that I love, which I played on the original Xbox, but I have it here for the 360, and that's the Godfather, the game. This is a wonderful movie license game that takes all of the characters from the original Godfather movie, and it portrays them in a video game, and it takes place back in the 30s or the 40s, around the World War II era. And you're starting off at the bottom, and you work your way up, and within the family of the Godfather movie, and the wonderful downtown settings in Little Italy and Brooklyn, and all of the different boroughs of New York as they were back then, in the speakeasies and the bars and the clubs and the big homes that they had, similar to what was in The Godfather. The Xbox 360 version and the PS3 versions are the better versions of this. They have a special Dawn edition, I think it's called, for the PlayStation 3, and then this is just called Godfather the game. But if you have a choice, and I didn't know at the time, I had the original Xbox version, but the graphics look far superior on this, probably kind of like a PC version, and the fire effects and explosions look, over the top in this. It's a little dated going back and playing it now, but it still is a wonderful open world game with all of the period correct cars, music, even some of the, I think it had some of the radio stations too that played some of the, the older style of music, the clothing, the old Tommy guns, the shootouts, there's wonderful executions that you can do, trying to intimidate people, to extort money from them, you threaten to put them in their own pizza oven or whatever. It's really cool, throwing people off rooftops, wonderful car chases, bank robberies. It's a little samey after a while. Some of the same hideouts and banks have the identical little layout as far as how you infiltrate them and take them down. But aside from some of the repetitive nature of the exact same types of things that you'll take down in it, it's a huge game it offers a tremendous amount of time. You could put probably 50 to 100 hours into this with no exaggeration. I probably got 60 or 70 hours and I never finished it in the original Xbox version. But I'd highly recommend Godfather the game if you want a really fun open world game. The Godfather 2 game I have as well. It wasn't received near as well. It's very buggy. But it does offer some really interesting things that they improved upon in this, with their setting up crews and taking a crew out to rob places and infiltrate and extort money and what have you. But it just didn't come off near as good as this. This is closer to the original licensed movie game, and I can't recommend The Godfather the game enough. On the original Xbox, the PlayStation 2, PS3, or the Xbox 360. Now, kind of getting up into the next Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 generation. I don't have any PS3 versions of these games, but you can get them all on the PlayStation 3 as well. But Just Cause 2 is one of my favorites. I have well over 100 hours in this, and I still haven't finished it. I've only done maybe a third of the missions. I did quite a few of them initially, but I just had so much fun going off and exploring every single corner of this huge open world. This is one of the largest open worlds you'll ever explore. So when I knew that Avalanche Studios was doing the new Mad Max game, I was excited because I loved how giant and how so much freedom you had and options in the way you could take down the giant enemy strongholds and what have you in Just Cause 2. The way you can use, he has this grappling hook gimmick, which makes the Just Cause games so much fun. And the new one that's coming out any time looks like it'll be more of the same. I'm going to wait a little bit on the new one. I just want to make sure it's operating smoothly and I don't have the issues that I had with my Mad Max game, which worked fine for 3 weeks, and then they had a patch that ruined the game, and now they get a new patch that fixes it again. And so far, I've had good luck with it. But I'm very much looking forward to Just Cause 3, and I will buy it in time. I just want to make sure it's a good, stable game before I pick it up. Same thing with Fallout 4. But this game, man, it does so much right. Wonderful fire effects, over-the-top explosions, tons of explosions. You get XP just for blowing shit up. And that's what the game does so well. I had so much fun just leveling my Rico character up by finding, infiltrating things and finding the hidden crates with the weapon parts and blowing everything inside up and commandeering the jets and then bailing out of them, watching them crash into a giant oil refinery, and then I fly down and I'm shooting people on the way down, via the parachute or whatever. It's so epic. This game is really cool, the way you can rip people out of their own helicopters and planes, commandeer them, and then, just wreak complete havoc on the world down below. But this is a wonderful open world game that I can't recommend enough. You can pick this up for the cost of a burrito today. It's really cheap. Red Dead Redemption, I don't have to really even explain this to anyone. You'd probably be living under a rock if you haven't played this. I'm sure not everyone has played it, but now I'm not a huge fan of Westerns. I do have some in my video library, and I do like Westerns, and I went into this kind of cautiously because I'm not real big on a giant Western open world, but I did play Red Dead Revolver, and even though it wasn't an open world game like this, I was interested, intrigued to buy this. I pre-ordered the game, and man, I'm glad I did. I was away from home for 7 months. This was the only game that I brought with me with my Xbox 360, to stay at my friend's house. And then I went down to Southern California, stayed at another friend's house for about 6 weeks. And this is pretty much all I played. I never did finish this game. I'm about maybe a third of the way through it. I just chipped away. I only had an hour or so each night. But man, I have had so much fun and immersion playing this. I would love to see a new gen version. If Rockstar wanted to put this on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and especially the PC, I don't even think it's on PC, this would be a very welcome definitive edition or remaster, in my opinion. And I certainly would welcome if they came out with a sequel to this. But this is a gorgeous game. It really does open worlds right. It had these kind of a procedural generated things that would happen in the environment. You'd just be working on your way to a destination for a side mission, and then you'd stumble across someone that's in need of help, or someone that's got a wild cougar after them, and you got to save them. They may reward you. It may, go completely bad, and you'll get killed in the process trying to help them. But so many cool activities and side missions. I never did any of the DLC for this, but just the basic game itself is just an absolute masterpiece. I can't recommend for an open world game with stagecoach racing and just riding a horse and the gorgeous graphics and how realistic the animals looked and the setting and the environments. Huge, gorgeous open world to get lost in. This offers a tremendous amount. Many of you know exactly what I'm talking about with the wonderful Red Dead Redemption. I really hope we get a new gen version of this, or at least a sequel. The next one, which I like, not everyone likes this game, surprisingly, and I've brought up before, and people have mentioned that they're not, thrilled with it, weren't elated with it, but that's L.A. Noire. Very unusual game. Team Bundy did this, yeah, that's right, from Australia. Remember, they were putting in like 80, 90-hour work weeks, trying to make the wonderful, they had a deadline that they had to get the game out, and they were just putting so much extra work into it. I bought this game, pre-ordered it, got the season pass with all the DLC, and then sat on it like a year and a half before I even played it, because I wanted to savor it non-stop, and I did. I waited for like a September, when I usually have a month off, and I sat through, and I relished playing this back in 2012. I will never forget that vacation off. I think I was sick at the time too. It was at the end of the year. I was really burned out. I wasn't feeling well. This game cheered me up, gave me such a wonderful immersive time getting lost in the late 40s Los Angeles. Pretty accurately recreated. I mean, for a video game, they did a really good job capturing the essence of LA as it was back in the late 40s as a police detective, and these wonderful animations that they have. This game is really cool. I found every single collectible. I got a really high achievement score, finding all of the old film reels, and I found one of each type of old or authentic car that they had back in the 40s, and all the collectibles anyway I found in here, and the historic sites and what have you. I really enjoyed this. This is a game I'm dying to return to. If they wanted to make a new gen version of this, or whatever, definitive edition, I certainly would welcome it. But in the meantime, I have no issues replaying this on the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360. In fact, I'm going to be buying this game and a few other Rockstar games like Red Dead Redemption on for the PlayStation 3 as well, because I understand some of them actually play and look a little bit better, as most Rockstar games do on the PlayStation 3. But man, I had so much fun with this and all the DLC. Even when you lose the cases, I still would enjoy redoing them and trying different tactics. I really enjoyed my time with this. A wonderful story, incredible cutscenes, and a world you can really get immersed in. A little empty at times. I wish there were a few more things you could have done back in that time period, kind of like you can do with GTA 4 or 5. We can go bowling and do a lot of just random activities. It would have been kind of cool to have had that back at that time frame. That was my only minor nitpick of the game, but I really enjoyed my time with L.A. Noire. Many of you I know have as well. Far Cry 3. What can I say? I just played the co-op campaign all the way through with my nephew on this and had a blast. But this is another story. I got 35 hours in this and I still haven't finished it yet, but I love this game. Gorgeous graphics, a really immersive environment. I mean, you couldn't pick out a more idealistic setting to kind of drop into this crazy world with all of this crazy pirates and murder and mayhem and death and everything that's going on the island, and drugs and everything else. It's a very unusual game. This is my favorite Far Cry game of all of them. It even kind of edges out Far Cry 4 as much as I like that. The setting is so good. I wish they had a newer definitive edition of this for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. I'd jump all over it. I love this game. I think they have like a Far Cry special edition with this, Far Cry 2 and Blood Dragon. I do have Blood Dragon downloaded, which I got a day one digital download. Unfortunately, The game, until they patched it, the first night I played it, the game locked up, my game crashed. I had to go all the way back to the beginning. So I never got to play more than a few hours of Blood Dragon, sadly, because the game crashed. Put a bad taste in my mouth, and I never finished the game. But now that the game is patched, I'm sure it's still on my hard drive. I could go back and play the wonderful Blood Dragon, which is a great, fantastic addition to this. Very different, but similar mechanics. But I love this game. This is just so fun. The crafting, the exploration on the islands, the cutscenes and story was really captivating. A really intense game. I still love this game today. I like the addition of the new helicopter in particular in the new one, but this is a great game. GTA 5, which I originally played on the Xbox 360 and put well over 100 hours, found every collectible. I didn't quite do all the stunt jumps, and I still had a few bridges to fly under, but I had almost everything done. I was trying to go for 100% completion. I could still finish it, but now they came out with this version, and so I hate to go back to the Xbox 360 version and try to get that 100% completion when I've got this, which I'm dying to play from start to finish. I even contemplated seeing if I could do the whole game in first-person perspective, although it might be challenging, but God, this game looks gorgeous. I got maybe 3 or 4 hours replaying this on my PlayStation 4, but I love this game to death. Many of you I know absolutely love it too. I wanted to play the online part in the worst way. Initially, it was one of the few online games I wanted to play, and when I went to a friend's house and tried to go online to play it, the game had just launched, and it was just a buggy mess. So that put a bad taste in my mouth. When I got home, I never returned to it. In fact, I let my Xbox Gold Live go because of that, and never ever played this online, sadly, other than playing it on my friends and seeing how bad it was then. I'm sure it's been fixed by now. This is an incredible experience. I absolutely love the campaign and the wonderful open world that is just done to perfection like Rockstar can do. This version, the frame rate is far better, and it's not near as buggy as what I experienced with my Xbox 360 version, which had some minor clipping issues. The bugs weren't horrendous, but what really took you out of the immersion was the really bad frame rate. At times, the frame rate was just broken on the Xbox 360 version. I don't know how it was on the other versions, but I suffered through it, and you just kind of kept pushing through, and eventually it would, it would kind of fix itself. You can continue enjoying the game, but God, I love this game, and I cannot wait to get back to it. If I wasn't so guilt-ridden with games that I haven't finished or played yet, I would definitely jump right back into this and start from the beginning, which I kind of did. I went back and started with the Franklin character, and I'm maybe 3 or 4 hours into it so far. But I cannot wait to return to this. This is an absolute gem. I'm dying to see what Rockstar has up their sleeve next with the GTA series. Now, I played Sleeping Dogs and put quite a bit of time into it, maybe 50 hours in it, on my Xbox 360, and never finished that either, kind of like the Far Cry 3. But then I got this definitive edition, and my daughter came up here. I think it was like last Thanksgiving or something, and I had this at the time. And she wanted to see this because she had heard a lot about it. So I put it in to show her, and man, I played this for hours. She couldn't believe the graphics. And I can't believe the improvements. I mean, it's almost like a PC version of the game compared to the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 versions. And I enjoyed the graphics. Look gorgeous on the Xbox 360, but they get even higher res pictures. All the neon signs look even better with more detail. The environments, the car, the weather effects, the lighting, everything is absolutely gorgeous. This is a spellbinding game. I just absolutely love this game. It's beautiful. The graphics are fantastic on it. It offers a lot of interesting things. It reminds me a lot of the new Mad Max game with the car combat. Some of the car combat, but mostly the melee fighting. That to me really makes this game. I love martial arts, and I used to participate in it back in the early 90s for about 4 years and really loved my time with martial arts. In a Korean art form, it's called Tangsudo. It's the sister to Taekwondo. But that's one of the things I loved about this. It just reminded me of all those Bruce Lee movies. And they even have in this version a DLC, which is kind of a throwback, harkens back to those old Bruce Lee movies in this. But this has all the DLC, all the car packs, weapon packs. You get so much. This is a real hidden gem. If you have not played Sleeping Dogs, by all means, give this a try. Awesome slow motion car chases where you're shooting like a Mac-10 out the window in slow motion. It shows you hit the car, it explodes and goes end over end in slow-mo. It is so epic. I love my time in Sleeping Dogs. I can't wait to return to this and replay this from the beginning, which I already started doing. Beautiful locations and hideouts and elevation changes. You can take boats out in the harbor, around the whole outskirts of the island, or the cars within, motorcycles, everything. I love all the collectibles in this as well. A really fun game, great to level up, and wonderful melee fighting that you just can't beat. Next is Far Cry 4. This is an absolute gem. I got about 35, 36 hours in this and still haven't finished this. This, on the bottom half of the map, I've actually found like every single collectible. I have like gone to extremes to go through and check off every box as I go along, doing all the side content as I'm going along, and I'm dying to return to this as well. A wonderful game, beautifully done. I really love the advent of the new helicopter. It just makes it so cool. It has a height ceiling. You can only go up so high with it, but you'll find that you'll get up to certain areas that you can't get to by foot, and then from there you can climb by foot and with grappling ropes up even higher up into the mountains. It really captures the elevation changes quite well. Great array of scenery. With still you have the underwater areas with the demon fish and crocodiles and things like that that you have. You got all the wild animals and rhinoceroses and riding the elephants. Some of the missions I've done on the elephants, like with a grenade launcher in hand, are just over the top. I love taking down the enemy convoys from the helicopter in particular. I've had so much fun. I did a couple of videos, I think, on this a long time ago, including a review of it, I believe. But this is a real gem. I love this. I'm looking forward to this new Far Cry Primal. I still prefer guns and explosions and all that, but it looks interesting, and I'll probably get it once I see that it runs good and it's stable and all that. But this is a great game. Some minor bugs and clipping issues with it, but for the most part it plays and looks beautiful on the PlayStation 4. I love this to death. I'd like to continue playing this and doing more screen captures. I used to love doing my PS4 screen captures and then putting them on Twitter and Facebook, but I cannot recommend Far Cry 4 enough. One of the best open world games from new gen system you can buy today. The final game, which I've been playing a lot lately, I've had my ups and downs with it, but I still love it. This breaks into my top 10 video games of all time, and especially for an open world game, is this beautiful Mad Max game from Avalanche Studios. Poor Avalanche Studios. They went through hell trying to make this game and get it out the door. I'm sure Warner Brothers pushed them pretty hard to get it out on time. They should have released it closer to when the film was released. They would have sold a million of these things, millions of them. I think the timing was bad when it was released. Very little marketing. Comes out the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5. I have good friends of mine that are gamers that still haven't played this today because, oh, it's Mad Max. Yeah, I'll get to it eventually. If they only knew how magical and great this game is. It's not a story-driven game, so much like The Last of Us with an incredible story and all that. This is like that movie The Road. It's an incredibly dark journey. The story is revealed through locations and historic relics that you find and little telltale visual cues in the environments. You see a world where it's just complete desperation. It's just everything is broken down. It's like the world overnight collapsed with some cataclysmic mess that happened. And it's complete chaos, very much like the scary kind of elements that you see in Fury Road or The Road Warrior. It's just like complete anarchy, only the strong survive, raping, pillaging, this cannibalism. All of that is portrayed in this. It's a very dark game. That's where the story really is. It's not so much a story-driven game as it is you play as a Mad Max character, and the world itself paints a picture and tells a story. And this is also the most beautiful game. As good as GTA 5 is, and I've got, the gorgeous GTA 5 here. I think that Mad Max, believe it or not, is even better. It's even more beautiful. The environments look more realistic. They've really captured a world that's gone crazy. You start off in an empty seabed, and as slowly you discover that the whole story of the game, you find out what happened to the world. That the world was eventually, had incredible floods and rains, and the oceans were growing and growing, and then all of a sudden everything stopped, and they subsided, and they dried up, and the water dried up, and animal life died off, and the people were half-lifed and everything. That's where the story is told through the characters that you meet, their bios, the historic relics you find. And I'm probably 66% through this, or close to 60 hours in my second playthrough of this so far. But I'm really enjoying this, and I can't wait to see where the story goes from here. But this is highly recommended. I've raved about this game long enough, about the highs and lows of it. But at the end of the day, now that it plays fine, and it seems like it's a very stable game so far. I put a lot of hours into it, and I haven't had any glitches, other than just one or two minor audio bugs. But so far, the frame rate is the best it's been. They finally fixed it. And the game is incredible. I got my map back. I'm having so much fun with this. I can't recommend Mad Max enough. This is one of the best video games I've played in my entire life. I think that much of it. Of course, I'm naturally biased because I'm a big Mad Max and George Miller fan, but the game on its own merits does so much right. So that's my quick look at my favorite top 12 or Baker's dozen open world games that I absolutely love. There's many others that aren't in the list. I'm sure Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which I have down here on my shelf for the PlayStation 4, I'm sure it is probably just as epic, and if I invested the time in that, I know I'd love the gorgeous graphics and the Pirate Caribbean setting of that. Let me know down below what are your favorite open world games and why. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your games.